I freaking was trying to go to the VA and was trying to go across, and they told me to stop first. And of course, I complied when I crossed the first checkpoint, and they told me to basically get down on the ground. Nothing wrong, just basically comply to everything they were saying. And it's just we're at the worst time, worst situation where people are becoming more aggressive with what's going on. Became a citizen actually through the military. I was combat engineer in the military, and that was basically why I came here for the VA. That's it.
So how do you feel about after what happened to you today?
Nothing wrong. Like it's basically just a process, procedure. To be honest, it's just like knowing we're good and okay, and now I'm free to come back home. But the VA is closed.
We're learning new information after an early morning wake-up call for residents near Dacono after a 2.9 magnitude earthquake shook homes this morning. And calls poured into our newsroom from folks saying they felt it and they heard loud booms. There were no injuries or reports of damage. The USGS says it happened around 6:18 this morning, and they have received over 500 reports from Thornton to Firestone from residents who felt it. And I was surprised, like many of you, to learn that earthquakes actually happen here in Colorado. So I spoke with William Barnhart with the U.S. Geological Survey today to find out how rare they are.
Colorado's an interesting place because earthquakes are kind of rare, but also they happen. There's been 12 earthquakes of magnitude 3 or larger since the 1960s.
Folks reported that they heard a big boom during the earthquake this morning. Can you help explain that?
Yeah, that's pretty common, especially for earthquakes in sort of east of the Rockies, is that there's an auditory boom from them. And that might be something in the house creaking. So if the house shakes suddenly, that might have been the structure itself making the sound. But also sometimes when those seismic waves hit the Earth's surface, there's a coupling there that can create an audible sound that people would hear.
Now, it's too early to tell what caused the earthquake in Dacono, but Barnhart says earthquakes in Colorado are typically naturally occurring or can be caused by extracting oil and gas through fracking. The largest earthquake ever recorded here in Colorado was in north central Colorado in 1882, known as the Big One at magnitude 6.6. It broke electrical generators loose in Denver, knocking out power.
The damage was still visible when South African President Cyril Ramaphosa arrived in flood-hit Eastern Cape province on Friday. At least 78 people died in floods that followed extreme weather earlier this week.
This is a catastrophe that I do believe could never have been foreseen, because as I see it, much as the people are slightly closer to the river, but they are quite a distance from the river. Where we are standing now is almost like 500 to 600 meters from the actual river. So for the river to have burst its banks in the way that it did is quite catastrophic, and it bears testimony to the challenge of climate change that we are now experiencing.
The disaster was also worsened by the region's geography. Many victims of this week's floods were living on floodplains near rivers.
Areas of the world where there are repeated disasters, like we have in our own country, KZN and the Eastern Cape are always affected by various types of disasters. In the summer, it's a huge downpours of rain causing floods that kill and destroy infrastructure. And now here in the Eastern Cape as well, in addition to the disasters they suffer in summer, now in winter, it's not only snow and cold, it's also floods that are now descending on the people of the Eastern Cape.
Meanwhile, the government response to the disaster has drawn criticism. The provincial premier said that the rescue effort was paralyzed in the first few hours of the floods because of a lack of resources. With searches still ongoing, authorities said that they expected more bodies to be found.
All right, and news just coming in. 2 senior Iranian generals have been killed in Israeli strikes, state television reported on Saturday. This as Israel kept up its assault on Iran's military and nuclear capabilities. General Ghulam Reza Mehrabi, Deputy Head of Intelligence of the Armed Forces General Staff, and General Mehdi Rabbani, Deputy Head of Operations, were martyred as per the broadcaster. This is the news that is just coming in. 2 senior Iranian generals have been killed in the Israeli strikes. This as per state television report on Saturday. As Israel keeps up its assault on Iran's military and nuclear capabilities, General Ghulam Reza Mehrabi, Deputy Head of Intelligence of the Armed Forces, General Staff, and General Mehdi Rabbani, Deputy Head of Operations, were killed. This is what the broadcasters are saying.
In the past 24 hours, we've taken out top military commanders, senior nuclear scientists, the Islamic regime's most significant enrichment facility, and a large portion of its ballistic missile arsenal. More is on the way. The regime doesn't know what hit them. They don't know what will hit them. The nation of Iran and the nation of Israel have been true friends since the days of Cyrus the Great. And the time has come for you to unite around your flag and your historic legacy by standing up for your freedom from an evil and oppressive regime. It has never been
All right, and news just coming in. Iran stated that the dialogue with the US over its nuclear program is now meaningless following Israel's significant military strike against it. Tehran accused Washington of supporting this attack, claiming that the US acted in a way that renders negotiations pointless. We know that Iran has been saying that the United States is completely complicit in Israel carrying out its Operation Rising Lion, and it is now saying that talks at this point are meaningless following Israel's strikes on Iran. We know that Donald Trump was earlier saying that he did hope that Iran would come back to the negotiations table and continue with the nuclear talks. However, this is the statement that has come from Iran, which has stated that dialogue with the US over its nuclear program is now meaningless. According to Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai, Israel's actions indicate it had permission from the US, thereby undermining any potential for productive talks. So at this point, the talks are not going to go ahead as planned, as was being speculated even before the statement came out. In fact, Iran has stated that dialogue is meaningless. It did earlier say as well that uranium enrichment and its nuclear program were certain red lines. They were at an impasse, but at this point, they are not going to be holding that dialogue, which were planned for Sunday in Muscat.
Last night, the Israeli regime, the most dangerous and terrorist regime in the world, with full intelligence and political support from the United States regime, conducted a series of coordinated and premeditated military attacks across multiple cities in Iran. These acts of aggression and unlawful strikes target peaceful nuclear facilities, military sites, vital civilian infrastructure, and residential areas. So far, 78 people, including senior military officials, have been martyred and over 320 others injured. The overwhelming majority of them civilians, including women and children.
Last night, the State of Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a preemptive military operation carried out with precision, purpose, and the most advanced intelligence at our disposal. The mission was very clear: dismantle Iran's nuclear program, eliminate the architects of its terror and aggression, and neutralize the regime's ability to follow through on its repeated public promise to destroy the state of Israel.
Our Defence Minister Richard Marles is urging Iran and Israel to step back from all-out war and calling on Tehran to dismantle its nuclear program. The plea for peace coming as our most important security partner, the United States, flexed its muscle, and 9 News was on board.
US naval might visits our shores, a projection of raw military power after prowling contested seas. USS America is part aircraft carrier and part amphibious assault ship. Its decks bristle with Joint Strike Fighter jets and Navy helicopters. Among its 2,500 crew, a crack team of Marines.
So on this ship you have SEALs, you have EOD, you have pilots.
We see that we need to be ready at all times. And so every day, 365 days a year.
Lieutenant Commander Craig Hamilton has been Australian liaison on board USS America for 18 months.
It's a very strong partnership, and we continue to grow our partnership with the US.
Peace, security, stability is a team sport.
At a time of global uncertainty, the presence of USS America is a reminder of how much Australia and the Indo-Pacific relies on the United States for regional security.
The complexity of the world is not new, but in the context of that, we also manage our relationship with the United States.
The United States gains great benefit from having a presence here in Australia. It's good for us, it's good for the United States.
While America attempts to contain China's economic and military influence in our region, hostilities between Iran and Israel now threaten to trigger a bigger crisis.
We specifically call on Iran to exercise restraint in their actions so as not to risk any broader conflict.
We must see Iran ceasing any work on nuclear weapons. It's completely unacceptable as well.
Even in the company of old alliances, forging peace, an expensive business.
The 9th edition of Vivatech, taking place in Paris, highlighted the dynamism of the African continent. This year, one trend stood out: artificial intelligence. This has presented an extraordinary opportunity for African countries, as artificial intelligence represents a new beginning. If you don't have cloud like France, if you don't have blockchains like Africa or massive storage, it doesn't matter. You can start from scratch. So everyone is in the race, and when you know that talent of Africa's digital entrepreneurs, the ability to invent new products and astonish the world, I know that in artificial intelligence is a tremendous field for them to express their talent. Among the most visible African delegations this year is Côte d'Ivoire. Its tech ecosystem is asserting itself as one of the most dynamic on the continent. Startups are innovating, particularly in culture and digital technology. It's the marketplace that connects artists in the art market seeking visibility or opportunities with buyers. So it's really enabling African artists to export abroad thanks to digital technology. Senegal is also represented with 15 startups looking for funding. Just as we are looking for investors for our startups, the investors are also looking for startups investing in promising sectors. Another key element of the summit was collaborations. Africa is the cradle of innovation. This innovation is a bit frugal. It doesn't always have financial backing, and that's where the model is changing. Big companies like EDF don't hesitate to connect with startups to develop their economies together. A key moment of the event was the Africa Tech Awards. The competition honored the most promising African innovations in the continent's key sectors. Startups from Senegal, Congo and Côte d'Ivoire in Africa stood out at Vivatech 2025. This year, 45 African startups participated in the Africa Tech Awards, a strong signal that Africa is now a key player in the tech world.
Australians with epilepsy are finding cures faster than ever with the help of artificial intelligence. Researchers hope the technology will improve care and could soon help treat depression, dementia and other brain diseases. Mark Santomartino explains.
After decades of research, Professor Graham Jackson is on the cusp of a new technical frontier.
We're in a unique era where the whole health model will change.
A future where people like Amanda Anderson won't have to wait 7 years to find a surgical solution for epilepsy.
I don't remember my wedding day. I don't remember holidays we went on, because that's what happens when you're having constant seizures.
By comparing decades of data with a patient's family history, medical images and millions of cognitive and genomic markers, artificial intelligence developed at the Australian Epilepsy Project has been able to identify abnormalities like brain lesions in 10% of cases that would previously have been given the all clear.
It does sound like the future. We're finally in a position where we have the computing capabilities and the machine learning technology to be able to analyse these large bits of data.
We've often found the cause of their epilepsy in up to 30% of cases where it wasn't known before.
All of that is happening in Amazon's cloud, Aussie infrastructure that's in the middle of a $13.2 billion upgrade.
It means that there is a gift of life that's just priceless.
It's hoped this same technology will soon be able to help find better treatments for diseases beyond epilepsy, including dementia, concussion and depression.
It's the quality of the data set that we're collecting now that will allow us to find a lot more about how the brain is actually functioning.
It makes me feel so happy and so proud to be a part of it.
If you have recently suffered a seizure, you can refer yourself for testing at epilepsyproject.org.au. Mark Santomartino, 9 News.